Hi, everybody. It's Mr. Gray here. Thank you again for another great week. The kids were super excited this week about the Community Rocks event and Halloween coming up. So that was really fun to see their faces, just getting so excited about all the Halloween stuff. Now, I have several announcements today, and also at the end of this time today, I really want to walk through how we're going to communicate about your students' multiplication and division facts going forward. So, if you only have a short time, make sure to set aside this video so you can watch it, watch the end of it where I really talk about that a little more in depth. Or if you're listening to the podcast version of this, maybe go back and just watch the end of this video to kind of see what's going on, because that's going to be really important for supporting your kids in math facts. So I'll go over the announcements first. On this updates page, I have just a fun link about the kids made their suggestions for my Halloween costume. And I took pictures of all of them because they were really funny. There's a link about the multiplication and division facts practice, which is what I'm going to be talking about at the end of this time, but that's an important link, and I'll show you how to get there. And then there's just some important dates. On Thursday, November 11th, there's no school because of Veterans Day. And on November 19th, the report cards will be available online. The actual first trimester ends on November 12th, and then they'll be available the next week after 2 p.m. You'll be able to log into Aries and see report cards. November 23rd is a minimum day. That's a Tuesday, and then the rest of that week is off because of the Thanksgiving holiday. So Monday, the 22nd is a normal school day. Tuesday, November 23rd is a minimum day, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday that week are all off. And then, of course, if you haven't signed up for PTA yet, there's information right there. So coming up this week in Reader's Workshop, we've switched over to nonfiction reading for a while, and there's going to be some big ideas in nonfiction reading. The biggest one is going to be to find the main idea and supporting details, and then to be able to find evidence for that. So not only can I find the main idea, but I can see what details support it, and I can actually point it out on a reading or a book or an article. I can actually show you how I know that this is the main idea. So we're going to be talking about that this week. And that's what we're moving toward. We're going to look at a learning progression on how to be a better nonfiction reader and set some goals. We're going to talk about how to approach nonfiction reading as a learner, meaning I'm supposed to learn something, so I need to figure out what that is. And then distinguishing the reader's opinion from the author's opinion. And then we're going to have a little short quiz about main idea and stuff this week, and I'm going to look at that to kind of pinpoint where I need to help some people. In Writer's Workshop, we're going to finish up our first information book, and then we're going to move on to the next information book. We're going to have some more goals for that. So we talked about at conferences, there's a Google Slides page for your individual student that has information about how I've graded their writing so far, as well as links to their writing. So next week or by next weekend, there'll be a new link, which is an information book, and then that first information book will be graded. But next week, just something to keep in mind. If you can't find that, I can send it to you again. But that's the deal with that coming up for information books. But we'll try to make connections across chapters in our information books, and as well as using mentor texts as an example. So we're going to look at good nonfiction chapter books and look at what the authors did and go, how can I do this in my information book? For math, we're working on multiplication facts. We're working through different goals, and I'll show you that in a second. And then I'll be testing the students kind of one-on-one throughout the week. In social studies, we're going to wrap up our current chapter, American Indians of California. And then we're going to move on to the next chapter, which is changes in California over time. And we're going to start with early exploration and early settlement and study some different map skills, including looking at timelines. In science, we're continuing to study forces of pushing and pulling, and we're going to talk about gravity, and then the kids are actually going to design a roller coaster using gravity. So that'll be really fun. Okay, so that's all the announcements for the week. This is the time I'm going to move on to specifically talking about multiplication and division facts. And so like I was saying, we're practicing those every week. So every week we're looking at strategies for how to figure out multiplication. So as an example, if I am doing something times 5, like let's say I do 5 times 4, there's a couple patterns that go along with 5. So for instance, if I do 5 times an even number, it's going to end with a 0, and 5 times an odd number, the ones digit will be a 5. So that's like one pattern that I know. And if I do 5 times 4, I know the ones digit is a 0. And I also might know that the tens digit is just half of the factor that's not 5. So for instance, 5 times 4 is going to end with a 0 and have a 2 in the tens digit because it's like half of 4. 5 times 6 is going to have a 0 in the ones digit, and it's going to have a 3 in the tens digit because that's half of 6. Now, it would be very surprising if most third grade students could tell me all those patterns and strategies, but we do talk about those in class as a way to kind of support making those connections. So how can we practice multiplication and division facts? Well, here's the link right here. So I can click on that. I could also go to our class website, and up here over in the top, it just says math practice. So our class website is tinyurl.com/mrgrayIUSD. And so I could click on math practice, and there's this document right here. If you had clicked on the link from the updates page, it will send you to the actual like Google Slides document. If you want to use this one, you just have to remember to click present and it will make it full screen. But if I'm on the website, I can choose one of the goals we're working on. You can see I haven't put in all the division goals yet because we're still on multiplication, but these will appear over time. And so I'm going to choose one of these goals. So goal 1 is tens, 10 times 1, 10 times 2, 10 times 3, all the way up to 10 times 10. We are focused on all the multiplication facts up to 100, which takes you through all these goals right here to the top 21. Okay, and then we stop right there. 11s, 12s, and squares are extra, meaning if I get through all of these and I'm feeling good and confident and can show that I can do these all the times, then maybe I'm ready to move on to 11s, 12s, and squares. 11s are 11 times 1 all the way up to 11 times 12, and 12s are like 12 times all the numbers, and then squares are 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, all the way up to 16, because those are common numbers that come up in math. So again, those are all extra. Top 21 is the way we're ending, but the way this works is, let's say I want to work on goal 2, 5s. So I want to work on all the 5s. So the parent could be standing like at the computer and can click right there. The student can also do this on their own. And so it says get ready, and then I can use the arrows right here or just the arrow keys on a keyboard, and I will show a problem. So this we would call a multiplication expression, as opposed to an equation, because an equation has an equal sign. And so you can remind students that they're supposed to find the product. So if I multiply two numbers, what you get is the product. So I'm trying to find the product. So you can show this, you can say it, or the kids can read it. So 5 times 5, and hopefully they'll say 25, and then it shows the answer. So I can go through all the 5s, and I'll just keep going through it. So we can do all those for practice. And then eventually we'll get to the end, and it says homepage, and if you click on that, it will take you back to all the goals. Now, of course, you could click on 5s again. You could do a different goal. You know, this goes pretty fast, so we're not looking for students to do this for hours after school, even if they need practice, but just for 5 or 10 minutes every day will help. They have a math notebook that has some hundreds charts in there. I'll try to put a hundreds chart on this page so we can kind of look at those patterns. There's a pattern with 4s where the ones digit always goes 4, 8, 2, 6, 0. And then if you keep going, it's 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. So it's always 4, 8, 2, 6, 0. So there's all these different patterns that come up. But that's the deal. So how do you know what your student should be working on? Well, following our regular email this week, I'm going to send you a Google Doc that is your student's multiplication facts progress report. So it's going to say, Mr. Gray shared this document with you. And so this has started I've almost gotten through everyone to at least get started to have like a few of these, usually 0s and 1s, 10s and 5s. So this document not only has some examples, so if you clicked on this, you can actually see like all the 10s and all the 5s and all the 2s and some other things, but it also has kind of what my score was for them. So there's all these different letters and numbers. So let me talk about those. There's a key at the bottom. And so we're working on a few things for multiplication. The first one is, can you get the right answer in some possible way? Okay, so if you see a W on this, that means we couldn't get the right answers. And so they don't have anything in front of them. They don't have a hundreds chart. They don't have a multiplication chart. They're just using their brain. But if we weren't able to get the right answer, you'll see a W. So that means they need to keep practicing. And the numbers are the date where I tested them. Okay. And then C means I counted to solve some of them. And so like if I'm doing 5s and the expression is 5 times 5, if they like put on their hands and they go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, that's great. They got the right answer, but they're counting. We want them to be fluent, which means it's kind of second nature. When they say 5 times 5, they might just have to think for a second, but they're recalling the answer, not a strategy. That's kind of what we're going for. So if they're counting, we're counting by twos, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Like if they're doing that, you'll see a C with the date. And again, both the W and the C, I'll be testing them again. I'll tell them you need to go back and do some practice at home this week, and I'll test you again. Okay. And then finally with A, this is where it gets a little confusing. It's not like a letter grade. A is accurately solves all the problems using strategies and memorization, but it takes them more than 3 seconds to solve some of them. So we're trying to do a couple of things. We want them to accurately solve it, have some way to get the answer. That's like goal number 1. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. I want to make sure you have some idea of how to get the answer to 5 times 7. Okay, that's goal number 1. And then the second goal is fluency, meaning they can get it quickly. It takes less than 3 seconds to solve, because ultimately that's the kind of comfort we need to have as we move into the upper grades for multiplication of single digit numbers. Okay, so if they see an A, I will test them again. And so we want that to keep moving. So this document, could say, the next time I test them, I could test them this coming week, and it might say they had an A on this time, they had an A on this time, but I need to keep testing them until we're fluent with that goal. So if you see any of the A, C, or W, that's a thing you can work on at home. I can say, okay, let's pull up the 5s and try that. Let's pull up the 2s. And then you can talk about the strategies maybe they learned in class. You can talk about any patterns that might happen with these numbers, and then we'll keep practicing. And then finally, the F, which seems like it should be bad, but in this case, it stands for fluent. And that's what we're looking for. So you're looking for Fs in every row. That is going to say that I think, based on my testing on them one-on-one, that they are fluent with that goal. And so we want this whole thing filled up with Fs, as soon as possible. But this is really the goal for the whole year. And this is multiplication facts. And eventually I will put division facts on the next page. And they're the same numbers. So we'll go through all that. The extra darker gray columns are review. So this is a review of 1 through 3, and this is a review of 1 through 5. So that one takes a little more effort, it takes a little more skill, because you're not just memorizing, you're not just looking at just the 5s. You're looking at, like, in goals 1 through 5, there'll be like 8 times 4, then 5 times 7, then 2 times 6, and 10 times 9, and 4 times 2. Like, it'll be different. And so they have to kind of switch back and forth. And then as we go to 3s, 6s, 7s, and 9s, then we get goals 1 through 8, which is a mix of all these. And then the top 21 at the end is kind of like the top problems that are like the hardest to remember. So 2 times 4 doesn't end up being that hard, not only because, it's something I can see, like in my mind, I can kind of see 2 cars that have 4 tires, and I might know that that's 8, but things like 6 times 7 or 9 times 6 just don't come up as often. So if I know these top 21 right here, if I have an example of all these top 21, if I can get these, I'm pretty fluent in multiplication within 100. So that's how I know where my students are. Of course, you can ask me any questions anytime, and then I can use the multiplication and division facts practice for practice at home. Again, if we get in this regular habit of just 5 or 10 minutes every day, that's a great way to do it. And then we'll work our way through. And of course, if you're running into problems or have questions, you can call me anytime or email me anytime, and we can set up like a Zoom call or something like that to chat about it. But about once a week, I will meet with your student one-on-one to test them and see where they're at with the facts. So that should get updated about once a week. Most students have that. I have a few tested already, a few don't have any, but that'll change this week, and then we'll keep updating as we go. So you can save that document that's coming in a separate email, and that'll be great. All right. Well, thank you very much again, you guys. Thank you for making it through this whole way and watching this and supporting your kids. And of course, you can send me any questions anytime. Have a great weekend. Have a safe Halloween, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.